roll, you think?
All right, you guys can hear me good? I can hear
Yes.
y'all good?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going
All
to go on and share my screen, or do
Okay.
you want to introduce?
Yes, I'll introduce you. And this is one, again, this is, I know a lot of folks were looking forward to this one. Got some requests for this one early on. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and especially want to thank our presenter, Susan Cheek. Susan is an agriculture management agent with Virginia State University's Small Farm Outreach Program. And she's going to be talking to us this evening about cut flower production and marketing, because I know there are several farmers market vendors in the audience, and I know that's something that a lot of them are looking at as something to expand what they offer. And this will be recorded, and this will be posted on our Extension Facebook and YouTube channels later on, probably by tomorrow. So Susan, thank you very much, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you guys for joining me tonight. I know it's nighttime, so it's probably dinner for y'all. I'm going to hope this is all going to behave now. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, now my screen is not going to proceed ahead. So let me reshare a different way. All right. And now you guys can see it, right?
No, I don't see
All
it.
right. Don't see it? Okay.
No.
I guess we're going to have every technical difficulty. This was working fine before we started.
Yes, I can see that now.
Okay. So why would you grow and sell flowers? That seems kind of crazy, right? Can you eat them? Well, you can. So you might want to eat them. Value added, a lot of people like flowers in the bath and things. I'm actually sitting in my flower shop, so I've been doing this. I bought the company in '99, so over 20 years, for cutting, for florists, for your farmer's market. They're beneficial in wildlife habitats. You see the butterfly here just hanging out. We want to take care of those guys. They take care of us. For herbal use, so people have been making tinctures, teas, and oils for a very long time. And pest control and cover crops. So we had problems with deer at Randolph Farm, just like all you guys do. Well, there's flowers that the deer really like, sunflowers, buckwheat, sorghum, some of those kind of things work as a cover crop or a trap crop to keep the things you don't want in your field. And if you're a little guy, you just like to look at them. I mean, all of us like to be happy. The flowers make you happy. So this was our field at Randolph Farm about 5 years ago when I managed it. My grandson, when he was, I don't know, 2, and he always thought the flowers were cool. So if you're really small, I have a half-acre yard in Chester, Virginia, where they have a lot of rules on what you can and can't do. My husband, my grandkids, and my dogs have the backyard, so the front yard's mine. So I guess I have about maybe a quarter acre to play with for what I grow for the shop. So I would grow less variety, you know, just a few varieties instead of a whole lot, or figure out what you're good at. Start with other businesses and figure out what they're looking for. You know, if there's a bakery or a brewery near you. Normally you do it over the winter. We're obviously hitting a little bit late for that, but there's still things you can do. Can you do value added? So just like those oils and things we were talking about, and seasonal mixes. Where are you going to grow? Do you have sun? Do you have shade? Do you have high tunnel or greenhouse? Are you in the field? Do you just have your patio and you're in containers? There's a lot you can grow in a small space, so you're not necessarily limited by the space you have. You just need to be aware of the space you're in. Soil. I don't care if you're growing vegetables, flowers, trees, check your soil. Know where you're at. Get it the way you want it. If you're using lime, you're getting a little bit late because it's going to take a minimum about 3 to 6 months for your quick lime, about 6 months to a year before you're really going to see effects from your other limes, up to 3 years to see the full effect of it. 6.5 is about where you want to be for most flowers. Not all. There's exceptions, just like our blueberries like acid, azaleas like acid. Test every 3 years or so, unless you've done extreme changes on your soil. So are you growing in a high tunnel or a field or a greenhouse? Everything to the left is in the field. Everything to the right is in protected culture. It kind of depends on the budget you have, the season you have, the weather. Some of my growers have switched to tunnels just because they can get funding from NRCS for cost share to help them with that cost. And it keeps the issues with the rain down because they're controlling how much water goes into those plants and how much wind's blowing on them. So just like I said, you can extend your season, you can shorten.
We lost your audio, Susan. Susan, we lost your audio.
Are you doing till or no till? Are you hand beds? Are you indirect? Are you, using seed? Different planters, the earth weight is the one to the left with the red handle. That's about $90. Most of your tractor supply in states. The one to the right, there's a few vendors that sell it. I'm not going to promote any vendor specific. I know Donnie and a few other companies do sell that yang. It's about $700 and up, depending on how many plates you want it. But if you have really fine seeds, it doesn't grind them and smush them, so you've got a little more control. This is a water wheel planter. So if you're really big and you want some big toys, that works. We were doing it in the winter. It was cold. This is a BCS 2-wheel tractor, so if you don't quite need a tractor, this guy is nice. It does everything a tractor will do. It's got mowers, tillers, plows, furrows, tillers. That's a pretty large one. That's what we have at Randolph Farm that we use. This is a smaller tractor with just a tiller. And of course, a Kubota. That's not the biggest one, but that's a decent sized tractor. So if you have a half acre, 2 acres, you do not need this Kubota. It's fun to play with, but you don't need to spend the money on it. I would go with something smaller like a Troy Belt or a Mantis or just a smaller piece of equipment. Some of the things to consider when you're looking at growing flowers. And you guys feel free to pop questions in there. I think I should be able to see them. If not, you guys can text or send me messages. I'll stop periodically. The crop selection, do you want annuals? Do you want perennials? Perennials are there. They're more expensive up front, but they're a longer term investment, so they're going to keep giving back to you. Your annuals, they're inexpensive, a lot of them up front, and you can get a lot of yield if you're rotating and if you're succession planting. You want things that are edible, ornamental, just a cover crop, woodies, bulbs, fillers, foliage. If I was growing for me to make bouquets for the farmer's market, I would recommend growing some fillers. So maybe Solidaga, maybe buckwheat, status. The foliage, you can use eucalyptus, you can use acuba, euonymus. There's lots of things that grow in Virginia that are probably already in your woodline, so you're not necessarily needing to buy or grow any of those. You just need to harvest them. Some examples of cut flowers that you can grow here in Virginia. All of these will grow here. The snapdragons and the stock are earlier. The anemone, sweet pea, vernacular, and iris are earlier. The lisianthus, the lilies, the sunflowers, and zinnias are warmer weather crops. So I'll get into a little bit of how you're going to start them if you want to do them. So snapdragons, you can direct seed or you can transplant, obviously 6 to 8 weeks. They don't mind the cold at all, so they'd be fine to put out now. Well, depends on your zone. I'm about 7 here, so you may be in a little bit different zone if you're further out west. Don't lay them on their side. Make sure they're getting netting for support. So this is Hortonova netting. You can do the same thing with string and a couple of pipes. I've seen people using rebar and making a mesh over the top. Just don't let them fall over. It breaks them, and then you don't get that nice straight stalk. This is Lysianthus. You can cut it up to 3 times in a season. So you leave the bottom 2-3 sets of leaves on the bottom and keep cutting, and you'll get this. It looks almost like a rose. They're kind of fragile. Florists love them. People that see them like them because they don't know what they are. These guys a lot of times prefer a high tunnel just because they don't like the
Why am I not getting any audio?
Why is your unzipper? What happened?
Susan, we've lost the audio again. Susan. Susan, we've lost your audio. We can't hear anything again.
Did we lose our connection on the system?
We can hear you
Can you hear
now.
me still?
We can hear you now.
Yeah, I think your phone must have got kicked off the system. I don't see it in the list.
Sorry, we're going to keep having technical difficulties, I guess. Let me try dialing back in. I don't know why it kicked me out. All right, so here's a really good example of a spring mix that you could grow. This would be a good time to start it. These are all edible as well as ornamental, so they work really nice in bouquets, or you can sell them as edible flowers. So the nice thing about edibles is you can get different funding for edible flowers than just pretty flowers. The VDAX does not consider most flowers for their value added unless you're making them into like bath salts or oils or something. This is a summer mix. Nasturtiums are probably one of the more popular ones. Cosmos are super easy, mints, basils, all those guys. If you're growing mint, just be aware your whole yard's going to smell like mint because it spreads unless you contain it. Marigolds are a really good pest deterrent, so a lot of people put them in with their tomatoes and things. I personally plant my vegetables and flowers together, so if that's not offensive to you, I would certainly consider that as an option. Because I think a lot of you guys probably are already growing vegetables that are looking at doing flowers. They grow really well together. So some of your target markets, like I said earlier, are bakeries and coffee shops, breweries, wineries. Food writers love pictures of flowers and food together. I've got bars that sometimes ask for flowers to put in drinks because it makes it pretty for the summer. I've got a lot of people now doing CSAs and shares where they get their flowers in a subscription weekly because they had to switch to online because they couldn't sell at the market. Hopefully we don't get back to that point, but that's become somewhat of an issue. And CSAs, you can do flowers in your CSA box. It just gives them something pretty to put on the table. Usually people add, you know, $5, $10, $20 a week to the CSA boxes and subscriptions they're already selling. So a lot of your herbs are going to go to flower. Let them do it. I let it happen here at the shop. I let it happen at my house. The insects like them. The flowers make herbs, you know, so people actually eat the garlic flowers and the onion flowers and they look pretty, and chefs pay more money for those because they're pretty. If you can produce edibles, these are a couple of examples of one of my farmers that's in the city of Richmond. She started with a quarter acre in the city, and she now is using 4 different properties and has helped create a flower co-op that had 10 different farms last year, helping the flower farmers connect to make enough product for your venues, for weddings, for funerals, for birthdays, for event planners. Make sure you're not assuming everything's edible. There's a lot of really toxic flowers out there. I would not eat foxglove. They use it to make medicine. They use it to numb. They use it for surgeries. I use gloves to handle it in my garden when I'm arranging with it in the shop. These are a couple of edibles, Nasturtiums and Violas. Some of the flavors. I'm going to share this if any of you guys want it from me, or Phil can share it to you. I'll give him the PDF version. So when you're harvesting flowers, this is probably one of the biggest questions I get. When do you do it? In the morning and evening, once it's dried. You don't want the water on the flowers. It'll make them mildew and mold once you get them in the cooler if they're not dry enough. But you do want to hydrate them quick once you get them. Make sure there's not bugs on them and things like that after you harvest. CoolBot's a really good option that's inexpensive. I've personally got, I'm going to turn my screen. I don't know if you guys can see. I'll show you after. So those are old Coke coolers, milk coolers from convenience stores in my flower shop, and it works fine. Keep away from the walls. Let's see, we went over all this. So these are some of the groups that I have information from that I've listed. So Botanical Bites and Provisions is in Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania area. They do cut flowers, vegetables, herbs, honey. They are open to having people come tour on their farm. You just have to contact them. If you need their contact, I'll be happy to share. I'm in Bird Garden, Virginia. RVA is the herbalist that does some of the edible flowers and herbs and helps create the flower group here in Richmond. And of course, we have our small farm resource center, the virginiasmallfarmers.com. Of course, you got to put Virginia State, Virginia Tech Extension, the videos. I didn't do videos this time. I guess I could have found them. I didn't grab them. I'll see if I can find them for you guys. But we did one on growing cut flowers, and Lisa Ziegler's done some great ones on growing sunflowers. She's the author of cool flowers, which would be your hardy annuals, and vegetables love flowers. So growing the vegetables and flowers together. Len Bazinski did the Flower Farmer, which is kind of a Bible to a lot of flower growers. There's about 4 different editions now, I think. And Alan Armitage does this really in depth. If you are a need to know everything about what I'm growing person, that his books are real in depth. Just make sure you're aware of the zone when you're looking. I'm gonna, let's see. Nope, I didn't mean to stop sharing. Sorry about that. I meant to click forward. So here is my contact information. It's a cell phone. I don't have an office. My truck is my office. I have a field out at Virginia State University, but currently you guys can't come out there because it's not open to the public. Hopefully they'll change that by fall. We're looking at doing a field day in August. And do you have any questions? I think I ran through that really fast because I'm used to standing in front of people. So I know you guys wanted to know about farmers markets. So what do you want to know specifically about farmers markets? Do you want to know how to arrange them, or how to put them together, or how to price your flowers? My sound working okay?
Yes.
No.
No? Got both.
Yes.
So what are some of the questions that you've had asked by your farmers still?
Well, I think one of the questions that I recall is just the demographic. I know sometimes there's a difference between a rural farmers market and an urban farmers market. Have there been any studies on the demographics of what age group tends to buy more of the cut flowers, or that kind of thing?
I don't think there's a demographic study, but I will tell you, one of my new flower farmers in Prince George told me, she said, I usually sell in Richmond, and they love gladiolas and sunflowers. And I went to Petersburg Market because Richmond was closed, and they told me that those are funeral flowers and they won't buy them except for a funeral. So, you know, it depends on your audience. Get to know your people, go out there, tell them about your farm, tell them about why you're doing it, tell them about how you grow your flowers, and set your prices. Don't shift. Like if I set a price in my store, even if somebody says it's high, I'm like, well, you know, where they go, what kind of deals and values? And I tell them go to Walmart. And I probably shouldn't do that, but you know, you pick your worth. Let's see. They're asking, what are some good sources on making arrangements and bouquets? And I know this sounds terrible, but I've been doing it since I was 20 years old. I started selling roses in bars when I was 20. I'm going to be 45 this year, so I learned it at J. Sarge. They had some really basic design classes. I know that they're doing a Women in Ag program. They're trying to put Cut Flower Growing 101 in the program for that coming up. I'll be happy to give you direction. You can come down to the shop, Florat Farms. She's absolutely right. So floratflowers.com has tons and tons of free resources. They're a farm out in the Midwest. Now, her classes are really expensive, but she has a lot of free stuff online. What do you want to know about arranging? I'd say you're either comfortable with it or not. Some of my farmers will never be able to put together a bouquet, and they just sell buckets of flowers, and that's great by the stem or by the bunch when you're selling. Florists, at least, are used to 5 to 10 stem bunches. Somebody's asking, how do you price your flowers? Don't compete with the grocery store. I'm going to tell you not to do that. Generally, I'll get in contact with a wholesaler. Potomac, there's Floramax, SNL, SNK. There's a lot of floral wholesalers in the area. If you're growing flowers, you need supplies like flower food, hydration solution, buckets, vases, ribbon, sleeves. So they'll set you up an account, and you can ask them to send you a weekly price sheet so you can see what they're selling to the florist at. Now that's wholesale. So I'm paying that price as a florist. If I sell it in my store, I charge double that price. If they wholesalers buy from you, they're going to pay you about half of the price they're selling to florists at. Like sunflowers, I keep in my cooler all the time, go anywhere from $2 to $4 a stem. I absolutely don't mind sharing with you what I charge or what I pay in my store wholesale. If you can't get the wholesalers to play nicely with you, call me and I'll share a price sheet with you anytime you want. Like I said, determine what it's worth to you. I mean, I've seen people sell zinnias, the Benry Giants, 75 cents a stem. You can cut them 3 times a week. That's pretty good money. I'm selling daffodils in my shop right now at 75 cents to $1.50 a stem. I grow sunflowers all summer. I never have enough. My daughter's going to start growing more for me. I buy from local farms and direct, as well as growing, like I said, anywhere from $1 to $3 a stem on sunflowers, depending on if they're colors.
Do
Somebody else is sharing a video. What's that?
Do customers, as far as the sunflowers, is it the larger ones that they're looking for, or the more compact and colorful?
No, you don't generally want great big sunflowers because they're too heavy for the vases. Small to medium is preferential.
Okay.
Single stem, if you're growing them, I do grow some of the branches just to get the colors I want because I can't buy them wholesale. The only colored sunflowers once in a while I can find are either dyed red or the white ones, and they're usually not very nice when they're coming in wholesale. So I just grow what I want of those colors. I will tell you the white ones attract more bugs. I don't know why. They just do.
Okay.
I've noticed that. Celosia is really easy. Status is really easy. When you're cutting the sunflowers, you want them to just be kind of like peeking at you. I'm going to grab one out of my cooler real quick. I'll be right back. I think. So obviously we don't have sunflowers here yet. Maybe a few people in high tunnels are getting them started. So they're not a daylight thing. They do grow slower with like less daylight, but they do fine if it's cool. See how tight that is? You're just seeing the color peeking. This would be how this guy'd be in the field. So I just want to see the color when I cut it because once they start opening, they just don't last as long. This in my cooler will last a week. Once you put it on your table, you're looking at another week as long as they stay in the cooler, refrigerated, and I recut them and give them flower food in the water. The snapdragons, most flowers are that way as long as you keep them nice and cool. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's asking me to unmute myself. That's why I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So, you know, if you're doing things like gladiolas, I call it lipstick. It looks like lipstick. The color's just coming out. Most flowers are that way. Zinnias are one of the few that I cut open in the field. The echinacea or cone flowers are the same way. You guys feel free to keep sharing us. And Kentucky does have some good videos on YouTube. Kentucky State for doing flowers. See that popping up. Cut Flower Growers, Specialty Cut Flower Growers Association is not free, but if you're in education or you're in extension, they have very discounted rates and they have a lot of videos out there. And once you're a member or you have a friend that's a member, you can see all those videos indefinitely on every conference they've ever done and interact with each other as Cut Flower Growers. Local flower dot, I think it's .org, is all the local flower farms. You can type it in and it'll show you all the farms in the area. I know we've got like 20 minutes left and I ran through that really fast. It's a BCS 2-wheel tractor. I'm gonna try to share a screen again and show you so you can see it. Farmers kept asking about it, so when I managed our field, we would get equipment they would ask about and try it and see if it actually worked. I'm probably about 130, 140 right now, bigger than I should be, but when I first started, it was about 120 and I could manage it without a problem. Sorry, I'm gonna run back behind the flowers. That's a BCS two-wheel tractor. What's on the front of it is a flail mower. So it doesn't throw the stuff when it's cut, and it mulches it like with blades that go in both directions. But it has all the attachments. You can buy a rotary plow, a rototiller, the flail mower, a hay baler for mini bales. It's an Italian-made tractor. There's a company called BCS America that actually is a U.S. company that distributes and sells all those parts. It's not made here. Ours actually got held up in customs when we ordered it. So that was the biggest issue there. That's the 853.
I think there's also a Kentucky company called Earth Tools that carries the BCS and the Grillo tractors. If anybody's looking for that, yeah, Woody just confirmed the Earth Tools in Kentucky.
Yep. So just look up two-wheel tractors. That's what they're considered, and it doesn't come with an attachment on it. You have to buy the attachments for them. I would also recommend Quick Connect. So all those attachments lock on the housing, but if you strip one of those bolts, you're gonna play a hard time getting all those replacement parts to fix it. So Quick Connect just makes it real easy. It's the pin that goes up and down, keep it lubricated, or else they'll seize up on you, and that's fun too, to break them apart if they seize. We just did one 2 weeks ago at the farm. Somebody left it on and didn't grease it, and it took 3 of us to get it apart. So what do you guys want to know about marketing or farmers market specific? Can't get no, you guys you're sleepy now. Y'all either just ate or you're hungry. I'm not sure which. Usually I get an itis after lunch. What other things, Phil, have you gotten questions on? A lot of people are having issues this year. I'll just let you know it's been real wet. Flowers don't like their feet wet, a lot of them. So we're seeing, some botrytis. We're seeing Phytophthora starting to get into some of the crops. That's one thing some of my lavender people are starting to have issues with. Little bit of rot. So if you can raise your stuff up, just be aware it might be wet again. We can't do anything about that.
How
if
late?
you need to work out your job.
With a high tunnel, I mean, are you looking at producing into November?
Yeah, I have growers growing in November. Yeah, I have people producing. I was out at a farm in January, and she still had stuff growing out there. Because you can always low tunnel inside your high tunnel with frost cloth if you need to warm it up just a little more. It's not real expensive. Yeah, I've got producers right now that have vernaculars and anemones in the tunnels. They're already starting some of the sunflowers. Their eucalyptus kept growing all winter. It becomes like a tree in there. You just have to cut it, which is fine. I try to warn people. They say it's hard to grow eucalyptus. It's not hard to grow. Once you get it going, it's hard to control sometimes.
All right. Any other questions for Susan? Yeah, here's one.
So flower food it's got some sort of food in it. It has an acid of some sort, a sanitizer. So that's what your food's doing. So like lemon juice. So when you hear the old things like, okay, I put aspirin or lemon or beer, or that's what's happening. It's getting its food, it's getting its chemical to keep it sterilized and sanitized, because bacteria forms when you get all those leaves and stuff in the water. You don't have to use flower food. I do recommend it. I always give it to my customers when they're buying flowers. So when they change their water at home, you don't know what they've got for water at home. You can control what water you're using, but you don't know what they're using. So they may not have city water to control the bacteria and things that are in the water. And that'll just trash your flowers, and they'll last like half the time. There's hydrating solutions. I'll grab a bucket of what I use real quick. You've probably seen it. Give me just a minute. So this is the flower food you see in every grocery store, flower shop you've ever been in. This is a powder version of Cristal. Floralife makes it. There's a lot of companies that make it. You can get it either liquid or powder. This one's powder, so it's super concentrate. It's just really easy to use. It comes with a cup so you can measure it. This is hydrating solution. There's tons of companies that make this. I'm not promoting any brand. This just happens to be what's in my back storeroom right now. So if you need to recut your flowers or they're just not drinking because it's a really hot day, you can clip this dip, and just like it says, quick dip. You just clip them and dip it like a few seconds, take it out and put it in your food, your flower food water. And that'll just make your flowers last longer. I will tell you, when you're selling, let people know that those flowers were cut fresh. If they're buying them in a grocery store, they're buying them in a flower shop, they've already been cut at a farm, held at the farm, brokered on a market, taken to that supplier, held at that supplier, shipped again to come to the flower shop. Now they're dry during most of this. Roses and stuff come in dry. They've never been in water when I get them. They're just dry cut and sealed. So be aware they've already been through all that. Your flowers are going to last longer just because you cut them right out of your field. They haven't been handled. They haven't been thrown in a bunch of refrigerators. They haven't been on a bunch of trucks. So that's a big selling point as to why you need to charge a little more. I don't have any issue charging more for the stuff I grow in my yard versus the stuff I buy wholesale. And I'll tell them this cooler is all local. Like, we have chicken eggs in the cooler right now. So the flower cooler also has eggs. We have another cooler for vegetables because you don't want the ethanol in there with the bulbs. So, I mean, they just lend themselves to each other. You've seen, you go in houses and there's flowers on the table and there's, you know, vegetables in the bowl. So just spin it that way when you're selling to people. And I'll tell you, I have flower or vegetable farmers that grow sunflowers just to get people to come to their table because they see that big bright color, the yellows, the reds. That's why McDonald's uses yellow and red. It gets your attention. So even if you don't sell a single flower, if you want something to draw attention to your table, that will help do it. You don't have to arrange them. Just drop them in a mason jar. That's apparently pretty popular now. Just had to do a wedding that way.
And the fact that you're broadcasting from a floral shop adds a nice element to this. I like that.
That's why I said I can just go grab the things I'm talking about and show you. And if you look in behind me, we don't have all clear vases. Our customers actually bring in vases and get store credit or cash. And you can do that with your farmers also. So you always have cool containers. I don't want to arrange 100 clear vases of roses. It's boring. Any shop in the world can do that. I can teach a monkey to do that. I want stuff that makes me challenged and makes me think and that's specialized to my customers. Let them bring their container in and charge them a design fee for putting your stuff in their container if you're comfortable with design. Like I said, those you know, leaves growing outside, I go cut all my pine trees. I cut all my cubas. I've got privet that's the most evil hedge ever. You can't get rid of it unless you rip it out with a chain. I've removed about half of what was there when I bought the house. And I still chop on it and stick it in arrangements if I need a filler. It doesn't hurt anything, and it's free. It's there anyway. If it's going to be a nuisance, use it. Mandinas, sedum, those are all really easy. You see them in a lot of yards. Yes, you can pick in the morning. I would keep them definitely in the shade, definitely in the water. If you have a cool area, before I had flower coolers, I had a basement, like an old root cellar that was where I kept my flowers. I've used old refrigerator when my cooler broke for a little while. I had a couple old refrigerators in the basement. That worked okay. So you really don't need a flower cooler. Like I said, if you look, I mean, they legitimately say, what do they say? Cold and refreshing and milk. I never changed it. I don't need to have a flower cooler to hold flowers. Just set your temperatures. Don't let them get too cold. Don't let them get too hot. And when I sell in the bars, I just use water tubes on the flowers, and that works fine too. So it depends on if you want to hold them in water. You can do old school and wrap paper towels with water, you know, with plastic to keep them longer for your people taking them home. The coolers just help it last longer. I mean, I have flower farms that hold their flowers a week, 2 weeks, and they're still fine to sell to florists or sell at the market the next week if they need to. So I wouldn't say initially that you necessarily need to do it, but it's something I'd definitely consider if you're going to get bigger into flowers. How much were you selling your zinnias for? Let's see. Woody Heart Love. You said you started selling last year, so I'm just curious what you were selling them for. And zinnias are really, really tolerant of temperature. The dollar each, 75 cents is what they were going for before. Did you have good luck making money on those zinnias? So there's a testament right there to what you can do. Make your product stand out. I mean, why should I buy from you? You can sell an Eskimo ice if you tell them the right tale. And that's really how it is, right? My tomato is not necessarily better than yours, but I gave it more love than you did. The flowers are the same way. Just remember they're expensive, so make sure you're making your money back on them. Not all of them are expensive. I mean, Solidago, I can't stand. It's goldenrod. It's the stuff that makes you sneeze. But it's a filler people love. I think I charge $1.50 a stem on it in my shop. And people will ask you for that yellow stuff because they want it. If you're doing NRCS program for I think it's the beneficial habitat, you put it in, you can mow it, I think it's twice a year. You can cut flowers out of it. And that buckwheat and Solidago and things like that grow in that mix that you would plant. So you can get it cost share paid for and make a little money to fill in your bouquets off of what you're doing to take care of your ground that you don't want to mess with a bunch of maintenance all year. Get creative. Don't buy everything new. My dog's over there helping himself to whatever I've dropped on the floor today now. Anybody else have any other questions? I think this is the first one I've done sitting in the shop after hours. Done a few of these and had to have somebody else working.
Well, yeah, thank you for doing this. This has been really, really helpful. Answered a lot of questions I know that our folks have. And I'll remind people that we will record this. We'll post this on the YouTube channel tomorrow. And to get to our Wise County Extension site, you go to YouTube and just search for VCE Wise. I'll just type that in here. That's the easiest way to find it. So just type in the YouTube search of VCE Wise. And if you're in Kentucky, I know that Jeremy and Shad will have it linked in various places as well on Facebook. And
I'd say if you send the link, we can get it up on the Small Farm Resource Center too, because anything I do live, he'll put up there if we give him links.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll do that. All right, any last questions for Susan? If not, again, Susan, thank you very much. This has been great. And the Woody says great information. Thanks. So thank you all for tuning in, and Susan, thank you for speaking to us. And
Sure, no problem.
Has a good rest of the evening. And Thursday evening, our topic is going to be Mediterranean eating pattern. That's going to be by FCS agent Sharon Rice. She's going to be talking about Mediterranean eating. So if you have had some curiosity about that, then come and join us on Thursday evening. But again, thanks to everybody, and I hope everybody has a great evening. Shad and Jeremy, you all have anything to add?
Great information, Susan. Thanks so much for joining us.
Sure, no problem. And if you guys do need help with farmers, I'm statewide, so I can join your agents out there and come help. I know we've got a couple agents out that way now, and we've got a staff meeting, I think, in Roanoke next month.
Okay. Good deal. We'll have to, as the restrictions lift, we'll have to look at some possibilities, some site visits.
No, they've been letting us because they said it's essential. You know, you can't help some stuff you just can't look at over the phone or computer. Right. It doesn't work.
Right.
If you tell me you got something going on in the field, I can't tell you what it is necessarily from whatever terrible picture you send me.
Right.
And we can't loan out equipment. Like when our farm was shut down completely, we were taking equipment to the farmers. So I did that some with the plastic layer and stuff last year.
Good deal.
It was better than having it sitting.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everybody.
Like I said, I'll be happy if y'all have questions. You shoot me an email or give me a call, and if I can, I'll come out. And I've got travel privileges, so I can take the truck and stay in a hotel if I need to.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Y'all have a good evening.
All right, everybody have a great evening.